Tonight we're learning new details about the Ferguson double homicide that left retired Berkeley Fire Chief Henry Williams and his 15-year-old daughter, Ha'layna Elliot, dead.
There's a specific kind of evil in deciding that if you can't have someone, nobody can. Not them, not their family, not their future. Henry Williams spent 30 years running into burning buildings to save strangers. He was a retired fire chief, a mentor, and a girl dad who never missed a game. But on the evening of February 21st, 2026, the man who spent his life extinguishing fires couldn't stop the one brewing inside his own home. Relatives expected a normal Saturday visit, but when they walked through the door just 40 minutes after speaking to Henry, they found a scene that would freeze the heart of any first responder. In the kitchen lay the chief. In a bedroom, his 15-year-old daughter, Ha'layna, a basketball star whose light was extinguished before the sun had even set. And the person found locked in the master bedroom holding the weapon, someone who claimed to love them. Today, we're looking at the tragedy in Ferguson that left a community asking, how does a protector become a victim in his own sanctuary? Let's open the file. Quick shout out to our subscriber of yesterday, Queen Mally 31. You opened the file, you stayed. You do not know how important that is. We are also holding space in our hearts for your friend and her daughter. Now, Henry Williams was last confirmed alive at approximately 5:30 p.m. on Saturday, February 21st, 2026. That's when relatives spoke with him by phone. He was at his home on North Clay Avenue in Ferguson, Missouri. He told them to come over. Normal Saturday, normal plans. By 6:11 p.m., those same relatives walked through his front door and found two bodies. 41 minutes. That's all the time it took for a 30-year career of saving lives to end in a kitchen floor. That's all the time it took for a 15-year-old girl's future, every basket she'd ever sink, every college scout who'd ever call her name, to be reduced to a bedroom crime scene. Now, most people hear this story and ask, how could somebody do this? Wrong question. The right question is, how long had this been building and who had the chance to see it coming? That's what this file is about. Not the shock, the pattern. Let's go back. Not to the night of February 21st. Let's go back years. Henry Williams came up the hard way, through public service, real public service, not the kind you post about, the kind where you show up at 3 in the morning to a structure fire and you don't know if the floor is going to hold. He climbed through the ranks of the Berkeley Fire Department, and by 2003, at just 40 years old, he made history as fire chief of Berkeley, Missouri, a small city, about 5 square miles, but the job was enormous. He held that position for years, steady, dependable, not flashy, the kind of man you wanted making decisions when things were falling apart. When he finally stepped away from Berkeley, he didn't disappear into retirement. He joined Boeing's St. Louis Fire Department, kept working, kept serving. A woman who worked security at Boeing, Shawn Sims, said she saw Henry's face nearly every morning for over 3 years, said they'd make 30 seconds feel like a real conversation, said he always complimented her smile.
So I've been looking at Henry's face for about 3.5 years, every morning, every other morning, nothing but a smile.
Think about that for a second. A man who had every reason to rest, and he was still showing up, still making people feel seen. That tells you something about who Henry Williams was at his core. But the part that gets people, the part that makes this case feel like a weight on your chest, is what he did with the rest of his time. He coached girls basketball. Volunteer. No paycheck, no contract. Just a retired fire chief spending his Saturdays and weeknights on a gym floor running drills with teenagers, building them up. Because his daughter, Ha'layna Elliot, was one of those girls, a sophomore at Pattonville High School, 15 years old, and by every account, she was special. Not special in the way people say after someone's gone, special in the way that made people stop what they were doing and watch. Her teammates said every time she lined up a shot, they just waited because they knew it was going in. She barely missed. She'd been playing with the same group of girls since 6th grade, teammates who became sisters. One of those teammates, J.O. Williams, shared a story that stuck with a lot of people. She said there was a practice where her shots weren't falling. Nothing was working. Henry didn't call her out in front of the group, didn't embarrass her. He quietly pulled her aside, fixed her form, and built her confidence back up. Patient, kind, present. That's the man this file is about. That's whose life ended on a kitchen floor with a bullet in the back of his head. And the girl? Ha'layna was found in her bedroom, shot in the forehead. If you're still here, type "file open" in the comments, because this one requires your full attention. Now, let's talk about what happened inside that house. And let's be precise, because precision matters when you're opening a file like this. Saturday, February 21st, 2026. Sometime around 5:30 p.m., relatives of Henry Williams spoke with him on the phone. He told them to come to the house, 500 block of North Clay Avenue, Ferguson, Missouri. Normal invite, nothing unusual in his voice, nothing that suggested anything was wrong. Those relatives arrived at approximately 6:11 p.m. What they walked into was a scene that no training, no emergency response background, no amount of preparation could have readied anyone for. Henry Williams was in the kitchen, gunshot wound to the back of his head. Ha'layna Elliot was in her bedroom, gunshot wound to the forehead. The relatives called 911. Ferguson police responded at approximately 6:15 p.m. Now here's where the file shifts. As officers moved through the house, they reached the primary bedroom. It was locked from the inside. And behind that locked door, they found 61-year-old Linda Hayden. She was taken into custody without resistance. In that same room, detectives recovered a .38 caliber revolver, 2 spent casings, 3 live rounds still in the chamber. 2 shots fired, 2 people dead. The math is cold. The math is exact. There were no extra rounds spent, no signs of a struggle with the weapon. 2 shots, 2 targets, done. And then she locked herself in the bedroom. But here's where people online started losing their composure, because it's not just what Linda Hayden did, it's what she said, and reportedly what she did after. When officers made contact with her, Hayden didn't break down. She didn't ask for a lawyer. She didn't go silent. According to the criminal complaint, she made what investigators described as a spontaneous statement. She told police she guessed she was the villain in the story. Then she called Henry Williams a bad man, called him a narcissist. Sit with that. A retired fire chief is dead in his kitchen. His 15-year-old daughter is dead in her bedroom, and the woman found locked in the house with the murder weapon is already constructing a narrative, already positioning herself as the misunderstood party, already framing a dead man as the problem. Detectives weren't fooled, not for a second. Now, if you follow cases like this, you know that the behavior after the act often tells you more than the act itself. And what surfaced in the days that followed on social media only deepened the fury. Reports circulated about Hayden's demeanor after the shooting, claims that she was calm, collected, that the scene inside that bedroom didn't match the chaos in the rest of the house. People online pointed to reports of her composure, her attitude, the way she spoke to officers like she'd been rehearsing the conversation. Think about that for a second. 2 people are dead, one of them a child, and the suspect is curating her side of the story before the bodies are even cold. That's what has people typing in all caps right now, not just the violence, the performance afterward. If you're following this case and you have a thought on that, whether the danger here came from inside or outside this family's life, drop a comment. Type inside or outside. I want to hear what your gut is telling you. The relationship between Henry Williams and Linda Hayden is the fault line in this case. Police confirmed that Hayden was Henry's girlfriend, or depending on which source you read, his ex-girlfriend. She was living in the home on North Clay Avenue with Henry and Ha'layna. According to reports, the relationship had fractured. Word was that Hayden was supposed to be moving into her own place within days, less than a week. But she didn't leave. And this is where the psychology of this case tightens around your throat, because the pattern here is one that domestic violence experts will recognize immediately. It's not the moment of violence that defines these cases. It's the moment of exit, when one person decides to leave and the other person decides that leaving is not an option they're willing to accept.
The relationship was ending, Henry was moving on, and for Linda Hayden, at 61, living in his home, embedded in his daily life, that exit represented something she could not tolerate. If I can't have you, nobody can. That logic doesn't just apply to the partner, it extends, it reaches the people that partner loves most, and in this case, it reached a 15-year-old daughter doing homework in her bedroom on a Saturday evening. Ha'layna wasn't a threat to Linda Hayden. Ha'layna was a sophomore in high school who made TikToks at gas stations with her teammates and had been playing basketball since the 6th grade. She wasn't part of whatever twisted equation was running through Hayden's mind, but she was Henry's daughter, and that was enough. Now, I want to pause here, because if you're watching this channel for the first time, this is what we do. We open files, we look at evidence, we sit with the uncomfortable parts, and we don't rush through them for clicks. If that's something you want to be a part of, if you want to follow daily case files, open them together, and stay with the story even when it's hard, you know what to do. We're building something here, a community of people who take these cases seriously.
Let's look at the evidence as it stands. The timeline is tight. Approximately 5:30 p.m., Henry is on the phone with relatives making plans. By 6:11 p.m., those relatives arrive and find both victims dead. That's a 41-minute window, and within that window, 2 shots were fired from a .38 caliber revolver. 2 people were killed in separate rooms of the house, and the suspect locked herself inside the master bedroom. The weapon was recovered in the master bedroom, the same room where Hayden was found. 2 spent casings, 3 live rounds. No other weapons were reported at the scene. Henry was shot in the back of the head. That detail matters. It means he likely did not see it coming. He was in the kitchen, possibly with his back turned, possibly mid-task. A man in his own home, in the room where he probably made his daughter dinner, taken from behind. Ha'layna was shot in the forehead, different angle, different position. She was in her bedroom. Whether she heard the first shot, whether she had time to process what was happening, whether she looked at the person pulling the trigger, those are questions the investigation may answer in time. But what we know is this: she was facing whoever did this. 2 rooms, 2 victims, 2 different wound positions. This wasn't a single frantic moment. This required movement. This required decisions. Ferguson Police Chief Troy Doyle described the incident as isolated and domestic-related. He stated there was no ongoing threat to the community. Charges were filed the next day, Sunday morning, by the St. Louis County Prosecuting Attorney's Office. 2 counts of first-degree murder, 2 counts of armed criminal action, bond set at $2 million, cash only, no 10% option. First-degree murder in Missouri means prosecutors believe this was deliberate, premeditated, not a crime of sudden passion, not an accident. $2 million cash-only bond tells you the court believes she is a flight risk or a danger, or both. Hayden appeared in court on Monday, February 23rd for her initial appearance. A bond reduction hearing was scheduled for March 2nd. A preliminary hearing is set for March 26th. The file is still being written. Now here's the part that burns. In the days after the shooting, Hayden's own people spoke up. Her best friend, Cheryl Foots, told reporters that she couldn't believe it, said they knew Hayden wasn't that kind of person, said it didn't make sense. A family member of Hayden's went on record saying, "I know she's no monster. I love her from my heart, and I'm praying for God to work through her while she's sitting there." And look, people are entitled to their grief. People are entitled to their disbelief. When someone you love does something incomprehensible, the mind reaches for any explanation that doesn't involve accepting the worst. But here's the thing. A man is dead. A child is dead. The weapon was in the room with her. The door was locked from the inside. She volunteered a statement to police that wasn't a denial, it was a justification. She didn't say, "I didn't do it." She said, "He was a bad man." That's not innocence. That's a defense strategy before the lawyer even arrives. And across the community, among the people who actually knew Henry and Ha'layna, the grief wasn't complicated. It was clear. Willie Williams, no relation to Henry, said the man was like a father to him, said what made it tougher was that everything Henry did in retirement was volunteer work. He didn't have to be on that gym floor. He chose to be there. Rama Verges, a former coach of Ha'layna's, remembered the moment she found out, said she was confused. How do you meet someone that full of life and then lose them like this? Ha'layna had joined a traveling basketball team called the Phenom, and even though she came in late, she fit right in, made an impact, was always smiling, always goofy, making TikToks at gas stations with her girls. The Pattonville School District offered counselors for students and staff after Ha'layna's death. The girls' basketball team honored her at their last home game of the season. A balloon release was held on Tuesday night. Emotions overflowed. These aren't headlines. These are people, real people trying to figure out how to keep living after the ground dropped out from under them. And this is where the file meets the mirror. Because the question this case is really asking isn't just about Linda Hayden. It's about proximity, trust, the person who sleeps under the same roof, the person who knows the layout of the house, knows what time dinner is, knows which bedroom is the daughter's, the person who has keys, who has access, who doesn't need to break in because they already live there. The most dangerous person in a domestic violence case isn't a stranger. It's the one who's already inside, the one who knows the rhythms of the household, the one who can plan because they've been watching, waiting. Henry Williams spent 30 years running into buildings that were on fire. He put out flames for a living. He protected strangers. But the fire that killed him wasn't the kind you can see. It wasn't the kind you can call a department for. It started in the person sitting across the table. And by the time anyone else arrived, the house was already cold.
Before we close this file, I want to leave you with this. Ferguson Police Chief Troy Doyle said something after the charges were announced. He said, "While this may be a one-day news story to many, for the families this is a life-altering tragedy. Long after the headlines fade and most of us return to our normal routines, their pain will linger. Their lives will never be the same." He's right. And that's exactly why we do this here. Because the last record is never the full truth. The last phone call, the last game, the last text, none of it tells the whole story. There's always something underneath, something quieter, something that was building long before anyone thought to look. Henry Williams was last seen alive at 5:30 p.m. on February 21st, 2026, talking to the people he loved. Ha'layna Elliot was in her bedroom, in her home, on a Saturday, where she should have been safe. The file stays open, the investigation continues, and if there are warning signs we missed, we owe it to them to find them. If you've ever looked back at a relationship, yours, a friend's, a family member's, and realized the danger was always there, but no one said anything, drop a comment. Tell us what you saw, what you wish you'd said, because the person reading your comment might be living in that situation right now, and your words might be the thing that makes them leave. This is Last Seen Files. The file is open, and we're not closing it.